Hello and welcome to A Tribe Called Health, a weekly podcast about all things health, food, politics, and sustainable living. I'm Joe Rignola from WellnessPunks.com, and joining me are Eric Hulse from EricHulse.com, John Randalls from SexFoodAndKettlebells.com, and Catherine Koss from PrimalBlissNutrition.com. Our topic this evening is the brown bag food police. Parents, the message is crystal clear from the government and our school system. You are not to be trusted when it comes to feeding your children. State agents are looking over your child's shoulder, and if they don't like what they see in your kid's Superman lunchbox, they'll move in, toss your homemade lunch, and force your kids to eat whatever is on the menu at school. Is this system completely out of control, or is there actually a place for this type of overbearing behavior? Before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsors. Head on over to hardlotion.com and check out what the folks at Made On are doing. They sent me a few samples of their 100% natural lotions, and the stuff is freaking awesome. It's really different. It's not like the weird, goopy, smelly lotion that you're used to. It actually looks like a bar of soap. It's hard at room temperature. And you rub it on your hands, and it just sort of absorbs into your skin without feeling greasy. It relieves dry and cracked skin that I know a ton of people are dealing with, particularly in the winter. There are no funky ingredients, no parabens, no weird fragrances. They use things like coconut oil, beeswax, and shea butter, and the stuff just works amazingly well. Go to our website at atribecalledhealth.com and click the link for Hard Lotion. And when you use the code WellnessPunk, you get a free gift with any order over $30. So go check it out. Also, we have the Primal Cooking Workshop. This is a project I put together a few months ago, and along with the awesome people on this show, Eric, John, and Catherine, it features some of your favorite bloggers, authors, and chefs. People like George Bryant, Diane Sanfilippo, Haley and Bill Staley, and many more. Basically, I gathered the 15 most well-known folks in the real food and paleo space and had them teach us how to cook really amazing food. This has been just an extraordinary and life-changing resource for thousands of people, and it was a ton of fun to put together. Check out the Primal Cooking Workshop at primalcookingworkshop.com. Use the code TRIBE30 to get 30% off the already discounted price. That's primalcookingworkshop.com. And now, on with the show. Alright folks, welcome to A Tribe Called Health. We're trying something
Been a while.
New. It's been a while. We're trying something a little bit new. We're trying to broadcast live, and hopefully we'll get some questions from folks who are watching. The topic tonight. I'm not going to go through the whole intro. I'm not going to do the disclaimer because I don't care anymore. It's time to it's time to get real. No, obviously, nothing we say should be construed as medical advice, and if you have some medical issues, you should speak to a doctor. But past that, nothing is off limits. So we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a couple of articles that surfaced this past week. One happened up in Canada, up in John's neck of the woods. Represent. Word. And it's crazy. I think we've completely lost control. What happened up there in John? What part of Canada was that from? Do you remember? Was that in?
I guess that was Alberta.
Manitoba, was it?
Manitoba, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened was this kid brings what was a pretty healthy lunch. Mom had some leftover turkey and potatoes, and I think carrots, and there was some milk, and what else? The point is that it really appeared that all of these so-called food groups were included in his Whole Foods lunch, but what it didn't have was grains. And so this was a daycare provider, and what they did is they supplemented, quote unquote, his otherwise healthy lunch with Ritz crackers to meet the criteria for grains. And that's just insane, obviously. The other, so let's take a perfectly healthy lunch and add some trans fat and processed wheat flour to it, because that makes it healthy. The other story came from North Carolina, And same thing, a nice homemade lunch of turkey and cheese sandwich on whole wheat bread. And say what you want about whole wheat bread, but that's really not the point. And there was but that's not that's neither here nor there for this conversation. I think there was a piece of fruit there, and it was turkey and cheese, so the dairy was there, the grains were there. There were potato chips thinking along the lines of the USDA, that falls in line with the vegetable because French fries count as a vegetable. But nevertheless, that lunch was thrown away, and that child was forced to eat chicken nuggets at the school.
First world problems.
Right? So the third story comes from Sweden, where a kid has had some tremendous success losing 66 pounds, getting rid of migraine headaches by eating a low-carb, high-fat diet. Yet the school refused to serve him food, the very food that has made him healthier. And again, you can say what you want about high-fat, low-carb, that's not the point. The point is, have we completely lost control here? Has the government completely overstepped its boundaries and become the food police for parents who are otherwise feeding their kids pretty healthy? So what do you guys think? Back to Catherine.
Yes.
From primalblissnutrition.com, right?
Yes.
Awesome. And we were just talking before we got on, you're in the middle of going through a class to be a nutrition therapist?
Yes, nutritional therapy practitioner. So it's
how's that going?
It's hard. It's intense. It's a lot more than I thought, but I'm just taking it one day at a time and chunking away at it. I'll be done in June and hopefully start practicing.
So what exactly is nutritional therapy practitioner? I've never heard that exact title before.
It is. It's actually very similar to the primal paleo philosophy. It's a Weston Price philosophy, so it's not too far off. And it's a lot of it's actually review for me because I've been in the field for so long. So it's been it's great though. I'm learning a lot still, and it's intense. We do functional evaluations on people to determine nutritional deficits, and we do a nutritional assessment questionnaire and learn about where people need help with their diet. So it's definitely I think it's going to jive well with what I'm doing, and it's going really well.
Great.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So, how do you feel about what's going on right now with the kids and the government and the schools? And that's why we have you right now. You've got children too, which is great. Same as Joe. So, and Eric's a teacher. So why don't you start? What are your thoughts on what's going on right now?
Well, I haven't experienced the government actually to the point where they're getting that involved, where they're actually overseeing what parents are bringing in for school lunches. But the fact that, what I see what the government is supplying for school lunches for the children who have the government school lunch, and I think it's ludicrous what they consider to be nutritionally sound food for children. On every single lunch tray is fat-free chocolate milk, and this is what the children are drinking every day. And then their quote-unquote fruit is canned fruit that's in a high fructose corn syrup sauce.
Which of course you drink at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as tasty as that might be, probably not healthy.
The pros of
just
they're making.
Sorry, quickly on the topic of fat-free chocolate milk. I just want to say that I actually used to be like a chocolate milkaholic. I used to drink fat-free chocolate milk every day.
Oh yeah, I did too.
And I was fat. I was super fat.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I drank more fat-free chocolate milk, I got fatter.
Yeah, because it's loaded with sugar. So this is but I'm talking kindergartners and first graders. This is what is on every single lunch tray. Every single lunch tray is a fat-free chocolate milk.
Can you guys see this picture at all?
No.
Not really. What do you got there?
No.
Don't tell anybody. But I snuck a picture of kids' meals today in lunch.
Nice.
And you can't see it. That's such a bummer. You can't see it. But there's a fat-free chocolate milk right there,
Uh-oh.
right there,
Mhm.
next to whole wheat pasta in marinara sauce and 2 cucumbers. That was a meal for a student. That was
Wow.
considered.
Well, that's actually pretty
Okay.
healthy compared to what I've seen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then
First of all,
and
wait a
then-
minute. How does chocolate milk even go with like pasta and marinara sauce? That's just a terrible combination.
Seriously though,
Forget health-wise, man. That's just nasty.
So I think just in general, what the government is supplying for the children who have the school lunches is like horrifying. So I can only imagine, like, the fact that they even want to get involved and start overseeing what parents are packing for their children's lunches and taking on a nutritional kind of role as, like, I don't know, it's just it's ludicrous to me.
Yeah, so I was kind of asking you guys this before we started. Why are they taking this role? Like, what is their goal? What's their purpose? Are they, in their minds, are they trying to just make sure every kid is safe by having the required nutrients? Like, what is their, investment in wanting to make sure kids meet these guidelines at school?
I think some of the schools truly believe that the food guide pyramid is an optimal resource for nutrition. I think they're brainwashed. So I don't think every school is actually overseeing what parents bring. My school hasn't, if anything, they've had positive things to say about my son's lunches, but I think in general, that's what they're trying. They actually think that they're helping.
Yeah, I think it's a lack of education. They don't know. They are, like you said, they're blindly following what the government is telling them to do.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, they're kind of bound by what the government's telling them to do, and I think that was the case in both Canada and in North Carolina, where they said, we kind of are required to make sure these kids are getting these food groups, and it's just really super misguided stuff. And then there's the other end of it. Is it just the government really trying to control people? You can go down that route.
Yeah, how do you feel about this, Joe? Tell us how you really feel.
Why? Does it seem like I'm holding back?
Now, what would you guys like if we were to play devil's advocate with the whole thing? Let's say that the government was still super involved in pretty much telling you what to eat, but it was healthy, and on the other side they were throwing out kids like processed foods and replacing that with healthy foods. How would you feel about that?
I think I personally would feel pretty happy, and I think there'd also be some other people and other parents who would be pretty pissed off about that.
Well, then it's taking away from our liberties too as Americans.
Yeah.
I mean, changing the whole form of government.
Yeah.
That's where I'm leaning towards. It's not leaning. That's absolutely what I believe too, Catherine. It's just, it's really not the government's job to protect us from ourselves. And even though that would probably make us happy if they took away, Twinkies and gave us, some grass-fed beef or something, that still isn't the government's job, and I would rather them just stay out of it. It's the parents' job to feed and raise the children. So
Absolutely, and nurture them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like if all of these foods, if it's a food that's available in a store, like a grocery store, a convenience store, anything, then you can't be in the wrong for like taking it to school in your lunch. It's not like an illegal substance or something. It's
even if it should be.
Yeah.
Some of it should be. I know. Some of it's worse than some of the illegal substances.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to what you're saying about if like the government was making sure people had healthy options, and some of us would be like, oh, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I guess at the same time, like it'd be great to see some healthier encouragement, and even with what they're doing with these programs, I think maybe somehow getting involved, trying to educate kids, trying to keep some type of guideline happening so that they're being educated is positive, but they definitely can't put in-house laws on it where they start billing parents $10 every time they fail to send a Ritz cracker with their kid.
But the problem is the nutritional education that they're supplying in the schools is the food guide pyramid, and that's the same exact food guide pyramid that's making everybody obese and sick. then that's what they're teaching children is the healthy way of eating. When they have the nutrition education in school, they're really pushing the grains.
Eric, as a teacher and a kindergarten teacher and everything, and you get to see all the little kids with their little lunches. I mean, you're walking around snapping photos. You're like a
private eye.
So it's like, what are your thoughts on how this could be improved? Like, what do you wish would happen? Let's say you were working at one of these schools where these issues were happening, and what would you say about it? How would you speak up about it?
Again, I go back to the lack of education, because I don't think they realize how the foods impact kids' behavior, the way they learn, their focus, their body composition. I don't think people are that aware. And I think if they understood that, they'd be a little bit more encouraged to make a change. I think a lot of people believe, since it's coming from the government and they're supposed to be like telling us all the right things to do, that it's the correct thing, when in fact it's not. And I mean, I have to give it up to my school. Yeah, their lunches are not the best, but they're trying to improve. Like, there's a wellness committee. We have we have kids that are cooking they have like a little web show. So they're trying to make some changes. But I think that some schools, especially the poorer area schools that are not as financially stable, it's like the last thing they're thinking about. As long as the kids have something to eat, and no matter what it is, they're like, all right. And then they push it out of the side, and then they wonder why the kids are like jumping out of their seats, and they're like rolling on the ground, and they're cursing out their teachers, and they can't focus. We know as nutritionists and people who are in the wellness field that nutrition is pretty high on the list that will help correct some of those behavior and learning issues.
Yeah, we had some interesting comments. Talk about playing devil's advocate. We had some people who sort of sided with them. So when I posted on my Facebook page about the first story, and this is the one up in Canada where the mother was fined $10 for not including Ritz crackers in there. There was a problem. Ritz crackers in the kids' lunch. One person actually said that, good for them. With so many parents filling kids with garbage that need balanced meals somehow, would be better if it wasn't processed grain, but it's a start. She goes on to say the government makes decisions for reckless and ignorant people all the time. I cannot believe this dropped out of the sky with no warning. So there's a couple of people here saying, look, there are kids that are falling through the cracks, and they are showing up to school with a bunch of processed foods. Another person sort of agreed with that, saying parents need to do a better job. But let's not kid ourselves and deny that there's a whole segment of parents that don't do the right thing by their kids, and kids showing up. So in those cases where really kids are showing up to school with packed lunches, that is nothing but Doritos and Coca-Cola and Twinkies, in those cases is it appropriate for the school to step in? Where do we draw the line on this?
Yeah, well, that's why I was saying, I think I think in a way it's nice to see that they're trying to step in, and it would be good to see some positive encouragement, because there are kids being sent with incredibly terrible, crappy food, like their lunch might be candy, right? So this little bit of knowledge is going to help them, start to transition into hopefully a better way of eating. At the same time, replace Doritos or Ritz. It's all the same, right? When you really start to look at it, we all know that it's still crap. So it's like, if they've got the opportunity to try to encourage people or educate people, I think like what Eric is saying, the energy is being kind of wasted. They're going through the motions of trying to educate, but the information that they're providing is so incomplete and a little misguided. So it's just a big clusterfuck, really.
Totally.
I think it's to an extent, it's kind of out of our hands, because then we can get into the whole subsidizing things and farmers and how the government, they will they're not helping out organic farmers and people who are really trying to do the right thing. They're helping out the mass-produced type of farmers, and of course those costs are going to go down. And right now, schools are in a position where they're not looking to spend a dime on anything more than they need to. So they're cutting back. They're firing teachers, you know. So of course, when they think about things like nutrition, they're like, whatever. Let me just give them this, whatever it is for lunch, as long as it's the lowest cost thing, you know. So I think that's kind of on our hands as well. It comes from high above, and high above, they have their heads in their butt sometimes, you know, when it comes to it. I wish that they would you remember those commercials that were like, this is your brain on drugs, and it was sort of like the egg that would crack and go fly out. Those cigarette commercials where they show like a tarred lung, and they try to like scare you. I wish they would be like, this is your intestines on nasty food. Look at this, you know? I wish that they could show those kind of things. And the damage that it's doing.
There's no money to be made. There's no money to be made. There's no,
exactly.
You know, it's never going to come from the government. It's never going to. It's never going to. And it's up to the parents. And the thing is when they're trying to get involved, that's just pushing us more in the opposite direction. I mean,
absolutely.
Parents, we have to educate ourselves, and we have to supply those foods for our children. And it's not, I believe 100% that it's not the government's place to get involved in our children's nutrition. If anything, they're sending the complete opposite, wrong message.
Particularly when you have these state agents that are dealing directly with the kids. I mean, it's like, these are like kindergarten, first grade kids, and you have a situation where like an agent comes along and says, no, your lunch isn't good enough, and we're going to throw your lunch away. It's like, no way in hell should you be dealing directly with kids.
That's like some
That's ridiculous. Like, how scary is that for a kid to deal with that? Not to mention the fact that this government agent, this stranger, but this person that's in authority, this person that's in power, undermining the parents, with what they're feeding the kids. It's fucking ridiculous.
I know. Did you see the actual font that she used was like Comic Sans?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you notice that? Like, it was this condescending, like, I don't know, so unprofessional.
Exactly.
The whole thing was just graded on every level. It was great.
That's so funny you said that. That was the first thing I picked up on was how it was displayed. I was like, are you kidding me?
Really?
It's like the kid. It's like a ticket was written to the kid.
Yeah.
You know.
That's exactly the thing. It's like,
you're right, Joe.
And these kids are going home, and they're saying, well, this person obviously is some sort of an expert. He's a government or state agent saying that the food that mommy and daddy are feeding me it's not healthy. It's like, man, what is that doing to a kid's psyche in the relationship? That kid's relationship with food and relationship with his parents.
way too young to be like throwing in these unhealthy, ludicrous guidelines and rules and penalties, and it's a weird thing to do to such a young and fragile mind,
Yeah. And it sends them mixed signals as well. Because what they're trying to learn at home versus what they're being taught at school, it's sending them all these mixed signals. And that messes with their psyche as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when parents are really doing the right thing, and the school's undermining that.
I wish that we could you know what? I feel that the kids have no say. All the adults and all the schools and the government. The kids have absolutely no say in this. I wish that we could sit down a kid and interview this child. Here, Tommy, eat this bowl of like pasta and your chocolate milk, and then go off and play. In an hour, tell me how you feel.
Right,
now,
exactly.
Here you go. Eat this beautiful salad with this yummy meat on it. Now go play. How do you feel afterwards?
Right.
I wish that we can they're the people we're targeting. And they're having no say in this at all. It's like they don't matter. It's like your opinion doesn't matter, but it's all about you. It's all about you, but your opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Dumb.
That's a really good point.
They're smart. Kids are very, very smart. And they'll tell you if you ask them. They're not being asked at all.
Right, and I think we're missing a really key way to educate kids about food and show them there's a correlation between how they feel, how they perform, how they think, how they act, how they behave, and the food that they're eating. We're completely missing that opportunity.
Yes, for sure.
So what to do? What can people start doing?
I think Catherine.
I think people have to kick ass and get pissed
Well,
off.
is there nobody who works in the government, in the nutrition sector, with all who happens to follow any amount of information or current research, or happens to actually be interested in health and blogs about it, and then finds truth and then sees all kinds of holes in what they do?
Sadly, no, because the government lobbyists are big pharmaceutical companies and the grain and the industry.
They're hiring people. They're hiring like the what was it, like the former president of like Monsanto or something?
Well, yeah,
like that?
Michael Taylor. Yeah, Michael Taylor was vice president of Monsanto, and he was also an attorney for Monsanto, and now he's basically running the FDA, but he also had a position in the USDA at one point too. So it's this revolving door, and you could probably go down and find 10 or 12 examples of that same exact thing, where somebody who was working for Syngenta or Monsanto or some other big agricultural company or big chemical company, big pharmaceutical company, and they worked for the FDA or the USDA and back and forth. And so it's like, these are the people who are setting these policies that are ending up in our schools and causing some of these crazy things to happen.
Like, they would never ever have like Chris Kresser or like Paul Check on that board, because they would tear it apart, and they would tell them, and so they're not going, they're going the easy way, they're going the cheap way, and they're hiring people that are going to allow them to continue to do what they want and then back them up at the same time. So I think Catherine had it right. It's not going to come from, right now at least, not going to come from the school, it's not going to come from the government, it's going to come from your home, educating yourself and supplying your kids with the meals that they need to be focused and to be strong and healthy.
Absolutely. It definitely comes from the parents, and I think the message that we need to send to parents out there is that don't have too much trust in marketing. Don't have too much trust in the government when it comes to your children. Do your own research, educate yourself and make the best decisions for your family, and I don't think the government should be involved at all when it comes to feeding our children. It has, especially in the school setting, they're in school to be educated, and it's very, very, it's crossing a line, and especially based on our country and freedom and being in America, and then to have them coming in and saying what you need to feed your children, I mean, it's just going against everything. So
yeah, it's absolutely insane. And for better or for worse, I think what parents need to realize is that it's not the government's job to do that. It's not the government's job is not to protect your child from poor food choices. As parents, no matter what country you're in, and it seems like this is a worldwide sort of crisis, we've got to take responsibility. We've already given control of the government for the education of our children. We've given government control for protecting us, and none of those things are really the government's job. The only job of the government is to protect the Constitution. That's it. That's it. End of list.
Yeah.
Now, Catherine, go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I was thinking how you were, saying how they bring on Monsanto and everything, who's at the top making all the choices. It sounds like even when a kid is being supplemented, his missing snack with a Ritz cracker, it sounds like there's even some strategic planning in there. Which of course it's all Monsanto-owned companies, right? All the foods that they'll allow them to bring, right? It's just
they're heavily subsidized food.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Now,
we can, it sounds a whole heck of a lot like a conspiracy theory, doesn't it? I mean, we may not want to go down that rabbit hole, but that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about Monsanto in charge of policy, and it trickles all the way down to what our kids eat in school.
It does trickle down, and you know, we believe in, we put trust in these officials. We put belief in them, and we think that the information that they're putting out there is accurate. And that's where, you know, most of our problems lie, is that we have too much trust in somebody in people who do not understand how to make appropriate decisions for our children. When it comes to all aspects of the child, I mean, not only nutrition, but you know, every aspect, education. You know, I just think there's too much trust in the wrong people.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the biggest issue, is that parents just assume that the government is there to protect us and make these decisions for us, and sort of lets them off the hook, which is pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's you know, it goes to, you know, you look at some of the labels on these foods where, you know, on the front of the label it says, you know, it's got this vitamin and that vitamin, and this has got fiber and made from whole grains, and it's sort of like, come on, if you're a parent and you're looking at a box of Lucky Charms, do you really think that's healthy? Does any parent truly look at that and think that that's healthy, or are they reading the advertisement on the front of that box saying that it has these vitamins and it has this fiber in it, and is it just giving the parent permission to feed their kids that crap?
Sadly, they do believe it. They see the commercial. It says part of a whole grain healthy breakfast, or you know, they do believe it. They do. I really think that just from years of being brainwashed by marketing, I think that it's really hard for us to let go of what has been, you know, through years of conditioning. That just trust, just believe. This is what the commercial says. This is how it is, and we do not question anything. It's how we are in our culture. You know, we just blindly agree with it. And you know, most parents, they see on the box of Lucky Charms, made with whole grains and healthy, part of your nutritious breakfast, they're going to buy it, and they're going to give that to their children, and they're going to feel good about it. You know,
I must be a little too far removed from it, because I just have a hard time believing that a parent well, I guess that's the thing. Parents, a lot of people just aren't critical thinkers. They're not.
I think we are the exception. I think most people, and you know, it's sad, but it's true. I think we are the exception.
When I see a box of Lucky Charms on the shelf, I think rainbow.
I'm gonna eat that whole thing.
I think
in a big mixing bowl.
I think rainbow-shaped marshmallows as part of my breakfast. I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think that can't be good. You know?
But some people, those parents, that's what they grew up with. That's what they grew up with. That's the only thing they know. They're not even thinking about it.
No, it's social conditioning. It's social conditioning.
Exactly. They're not. It's not even a thought to them. Like, they haven't woken up to the fact that if I feed my kid, like I don't know, Captain Crunch for breakfast, and they don't get any other nutrients, they're going to school and they're getting all this crappy food, and then they wonder why they have all these malfunctions going on within their behavior and their learning and their bodies. They don't put two and two together because they don't know any better.
Right.
You know, we're awake. We're woken up to the fact that nutrition is going to be extremely important to a healthy person. They don't, for some reason, they don't know. We just gotta like just hello, wake up. You know, when it comes to these things.
So what's it gonna take? What's it gonna take for people to finally wake up and realize that the government isn't looking out for our best interests? Because I mean, I
think we have to know we can't save anybody. People are going to, let's say 50 people are watching this, right? And let's just say that.
I think you're being really optimistic.
I know, right? I'm so excited. Let's say there's
I hear what you're saying, Eric. Like even if we could change one person, it's a change in the right direction. I think having
out of those 50 people who are watching this, maybe 2 of them will, like, a light bulb will go off and be like, oh snap, I can't give my kids
Again, optimistic.
Yeah, totally. But you know what? Here's the thing.
Maybe 2 of them. Catherine's like maybe 1.
Maybe 1.
Yeah, maybe 1. But here's the thing. You know, hopefully we make a compelling enough argument and we're moderately entertaining enough where people will actually want to share what we're trying to say here, and maybe it does reach somebody who, let's face it, the people that are going to listen to this initially are people who follow our pages, people who already, for the most part, know better. But it would be really helpful if people did share this. And maybe it does get to someone who really genuinely thought that, these cereal boxes are being truthful and that the government is really looking out for our best interest. And we're certainly not here to try and bash people who believe that and are doing the best that they can under their individual circumstances. We understand that, everyone is different, and we don't want to, we're definitely not trying to bash anyone who's really just doing the best that they can with the information that they have. And so really what we're trying to do is just give people some new information.
Catherine,
So-
how old are your kids?
7 and 4.
So what grades are they in then?
Preschool and first grade.
So how do you think they feel about like the lunches? I mean, I know you're a wicked cook because I see all your recipes. I've tried some of them; they're great. What do they think about food and the food that you provide them to school? What do they say about? I'm sure they must see other kids' lunches must look different. What do you think is their general attitude towards all of that?
Of course, my phone starts ringing.
It's all good.
Hold on one second.
It's usually me.
No, go ahead, answer it. We'll all say hello.
He's like, nah, fuck that.
No, they're actually really they surprise me. Joshua hasn't had any, he hasn't had any complaints. He actually talks about some of the stuff the other kids have and how it affects the, he sees, he's like, wow, Mom, they had this for lunch or they had that for lunch. So I think and I talk about this a lot. I talk about this all the time, but I think explaining to your children the reasons behind why you feed them the way you feed them and the effects that those foods are going to have on them is the important thing. And just being, realistic with them and talking to them a lot about it. But they seem, so far, my younger one, he's a little bit of a firecracker, and he's, he fights for some of the bad stuff. And I also let them learn their own lessons a little bit where they'll try some of the bad stuff and they'll see how they feel. And Eric, I know we've talked about this before, like just sometimes natural consequences and seeing how the different foods make you feel. They always gravitate back to the healthier stuff once they're adjusted to eating that way. So it hasn't been that big of a challenge. I thought it was going to be a lot worse. They seem to be pretty accepting of it, and I don't really get too many complaints. Today he said that I put too much spinach in his lunches and that I should cut down on that.
Yeah, that's feedback, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Honestly, if that's your biggest problem, really, it's really not so bad. Not so bad. Does Joshua know that his lunches are famous?
He does. He gets embarrassed. He kind of like shies away from it. He's like, "Don't show me that."
Oh, it's funny.
So, Catherine, since you're a mother of 2 kids going to school, what advice would you give to a parent, let's just say, who's watching this, and they're like, all right, I need to make changes, and then when those changes come in, of course, things like finances and time and the kids' tastes and their taste buds and what they want to eat all come into play. What would you say to that parent and how to get them started?
My kids are standing right next to me.
You can say hello.
Yeah, they can come say hi.
Like, no, go.
Yeah, they can chime in if they want.
Hi. Here.
You should totally come on.
Say hi.
Hey, buddy.
Hi.
Yay!
Okay.
What did you have for lunch today?
We're almost done. Guys, go in the other room. We're almost done. Okay.
Your kids are so awesome. I love that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so let's leave some advice then for some
Yeah.
parents, in that would be in your type position.
I would say have some trust in your children that they will be a little more accepting than you think they will be. I think a lot of times we worry so much because there's so much pressure from other outside influences on how to feed your children that we lose trust in ourselves and trust in our children. Ignore all of that. Follow your instinct. Follow, what feels right. Feed them real food and get them used to it. And they will surprise you. Children are really resilient, and they change. Joshua wasn't always eating this way, and he's adjusted just fine. He'll eat anything I put in front of him. So I think having trust in your children that they can make the right decisions, and having trust in yourself that you can make the right decisions. I think the biggest thing that parents deal with is just not. We have so many mixed messages coming from so many. We're bombarded so much that we lose trust in ourselves to be able to supply the nutrients that our children need, and we lose trust in our children that they can actually be okay with these healthy choices. So ignore the naysayers, ignore the whatever you're hearing out there, and just do what feels right, and your children will adjust and they will be okay. And also, they will surprise you. I said this on a recent interview that my kids yesterday handed me an avocado, and that's what they wanted for breakfast with salt. Put salt on it. So
Nice.
they will surprise you, and they'll still recognize how these different foods make them feel. So just have trust. Yeah, just have.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add that I think any parent who's sort of new to this needs to get it out of their head that the government is here for their benefit, or that they're here to make the right decisions for your children. As parents, it's our job, it's your job to make the best decisions you can. This isn't about being perfect. It isn't about providing the absolute perfect diet, or perfect food for your kids. It's just doing your own research and doing the best that you can within your circumstances.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone needs to tell you that Doritos and Ho-Hos are a balanced meal by any stretch of the imagination. So take baby steps, and just start with incorporating some real food into the kids' eating habits, and trying to eliminate some of the less desirable foods. And like Catherine said, I think your kids may be surprised, because I think they'll see the correlation there. I think they'll start to notice if they feel better, or if they're able to pay attention more in class, or if they if they're able to behave better. I think they notice these things. And just working with kids in my practice, I noticed that they really do notice a difference with how they behave. I think that's a big one. So it's not about being perfect. It's just about taking responsibility for this stuff on your own, and know that the government doesn't have your back on this. It's not their job.
Absolutely. I agree.
What else do you guys have to say about this?
Fuck the police.
Word.
No, my best friend's
Also
a cop. I shouldn't say that.
All right, so we'll end on that note, so we don't go too overboard here, and people fall asleep on us. So we'll end on that. We want you guys to chime in. Let us know. Find us on our Facebook page, facebook.com, A Tribe Called Health, and chime in and let us know what you think about this. And also let us know what other topics you'd like us to discuss on this podcast.
Yeah.
And once again, thanks to our sponsors. Go ahead, Eric. You have something else you want to say?
Yeah, I was going to say something, Joe.
Go for it.
It's not just nutrition that we want to discuss. We want to discuss anything that involves being a healthy person. So not just nutrition. If there's things you want to talk about, even like sleep, stress management, I don't know, lifestyle factors, anything at all that involves being a healthy person, not just nutrition.
Yeah, stress management, and we're not afraid to get political if we have to. Obviously we dove into that a little bit today. I mean, so, all of this stuff sort of falls into the realm of health and wellness. So, yeah.
Good.
Our website is atribecolledhealth.com. You guys remind people where they can find you online.
Yeah,
Eric?
I'm at sexfoodandkettlebells.com. And thanks for having me on, and thanks, Catherine, for coming on. You're looking gorgeous tonight.
Oh, thank you.
What about me, John? How do I look?
Eric, you're always looking gorgeous, buddy.
Thanks.
You were a bit serious. You were a bit serious today.
I know you need some
I was.
wine, Eric.
Well, Eric's a homeowner now, man. Eric's a homeowner. He's got some new stress.
I'm you know why I'm still in my work clothes. I have to change out of my costume.
Just
This
rip
is
that
my
shirt
serious
off, man. Just rip the shirt off, and we'll be all good.
Rip it off.
So, Catherine, Eric, where can people find you?
Go ahead, Catherine.
I'm on primalblissnutrition.com, facebook.com/primalblissnutrition, and I'm also on Twitter, Primal Bliss, and Instagram, Primal Bliss.
Excellent.
For me, it's just
Eric?
my name, Eric Pulse. Just type that into, anything.
You're still doing that. It's just
He
my
still
name.
says that, eh? Just a name.
It
It's an
is.
awesome name.
All right. Well, it's been great. It's been great hanging with
Excellent.
you all as usual.
Absolutely. And I am at wellnesspunks.com and facebook.com/wellnesspunks. And once again, thanks to our sponsors, Hard Lotion, made by Made On,
Hard
which is
Lotion.
a really awesome product. Hardlotion.com, check them out. And also check out primalcookingworkshop.com and use the coupon code TRIBE30 and get 30% off of that. Good to go.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.